Today I want to talk about OU Texas. That would be unranked Oklahoma versus number 22 Texas, and all that's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner shit.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. Today, we begin my favorite week of the college football calendar year. That is OU Texas week, aka Hate Week. Now, I understand that there are some Texas folks that like Chan, and I appreciate y'all. I also understand that this week we are mortal enemies, and that's just how it's going to go down, because this week, both Oklahoma and Texas are desperate to win. And that's saying a lot, because yes, absolutely, this is a rivalry game. Don't nobody want to go, don't nobody want to lose this game, ever. Particularly this year, right? Because this game means so much to Oklahoma and Texas fans, because Texas seems to just, forget that it's actually Baja, Oklahoma, right? Everything that is south of Dallas, y'all can have, fine, whatever. You come up to Dallas, that's Oklahoma country, right? We run that. That's ours. You go into the Cotton Bowl, you leave with an L. That's how that goes down. But trash talk aside, right? This game is interesting for a number of football reasons, right? Not the least of which is the history. But football reasons to start, Tom Herman needs to win this football game to solidify his standing as the head coach at the University of Texas. This after a 33-31 loss to Texas Christian at home to Max Duggan. This is to a Gary Patterson who is 7-3 against Texas going back to 2012. Has the best record of anybody that plays Texas at least 5 times since then, or a 70% winning percentage. It's really, really bad right there right now, because they look shaky against Texas Tech. Having to go into overtime against Texas Tech is not what you sign up for as a Texas fan. Losing to Texas Christian at home in year 4, also not what you sign up for as a Texas fan. Now, Sam Ehlinger looked like lights out against UTEP. But I submit to you, the Bixby Spartans look lights out against UTEP. Carl Albert looks just awesome against UTEP. It ain't really a great judge of who you are. Then we get the Tech game. Then we get the Texas Christian game. All that aside, they're averaging 517 yards of offense a game. It feels like a soft number because of who they played and how they played in those games. But that's the number, right? They're still averaging 51 points a game, even though they only scored 31 against Texas Christian, because that's how many they were scoring before that game began. But if you're looking at Sam Ehlinger, you'll see 2 games where he threw for all the yards, and then this one where he was not great, 17-36, man. That's less than 50% completions. And what he did complete seemed to be home run hitters, right? He threw tutties, but he did not look like he had full command of the offense. He did not look like he was comfortable. He was double clutching to start the game. Didn't trust what he sees. Had dirty eyes everywhere you look. He has to play outstanding football for Texas to win. I also think that it's interesting that we're talking about Tom Herman. We're not talking about, say, Casey Thompson replacing Sam Ehlinger as a starting quarterback, because this is his ceiling. He hasn't gotten better. And even in the game in which he beat Oklahoma 48-45, he didn't look great. He didn't look bad either, right? He did not look like the kind of dude that you expect to go to Texas and win a Heisman Trophy, even though there were a lot of people that were trying to make Sam Ehlinger a Heisman Trophy winner. I just didn't see it, right? You also have a tailback in Roschon Johnson, and another in Keontae Ingram, and another in Bijan Robinson that are quietly all averaging better than 5 yards per carry. That's big. That offensive line is actually giving them space to operate, and I think Roschon Johnson is the best tailback of the group right now. I think Bijan Robinson will be, but you got to get him some touches. He's only got 9 this season. I want to see him touch the ball a little bit more. Meanwhile, Roschon Johnson and Keontae Ingram are basically splitting carries. I think Keontae Ingram has 2 more touches than Roschon Johnson does this season. The thing that Texas has going for it offensively is they can run trees at you. And this is a thing that's a problem for Oklahoma, so I'm going to harp on it. You can run 6'7" Jared Wiley 254 pounds. You can run 6'6", 244-pound Malcolm Epps. You can run 6'4", 230-pound Brendan Eagles. You can run 6'3", 217-pound Tarek Black. You can run trees at a shorter defensive backfield, at least the one that Alex Grinch has wanted to run out there. I'm going to get into that when we get to the OU side of things here. But I would need Sam Ehlinger to complete passes to those guys, right? Because they're going to be open, and if you play them man-to-man, they're probably going to win more than they lose. But that all depends on how good the quarterback is. It's not that Texas' offensive line is that good, it's that it's just been better than Oklahoma's, which is all you really need to do. Be better than Oklahoma's offensive line. Defensively, you're talking about your best player being Joseph Asai, who when he is allowed to run roughshod and wreak havoc has been great. And that's going to be an advantage for Texas against Oklahoma's left tackle because that's where you're going to see Joseph Asai line up. You're going to see him line up over the left tackle, and he's probably going to beat somebody senseless. And if Oklahoma has a left tackle and Anton Harrison or Eric Swinson or even Adrian Ely that can stand up to that, I feel much better about Oklahoma going into this game. But that is an advantage I expect Chris Ash to harp on and go after. I think that with safety play, you're going to be hit and miss. Oklahoma's got a great group of wide receivers. They're young, but they're super talented. Juwan Mitchell is the best linebacker, I think, that nobody is actually given any credit to. He was playing outstanding football against Texas Christian, picked up an unfortunate targeting call, which they rescinded, but they left their ejection because helmet to helmet. But I felt bad for him because I thought it was an egregious call, and because Juwan Mitchell was playing so well. Keandre Coburn is also just that dude, snacks in the middle, going to eat people up. They have the tools to win this football game, and they ought to win this football game, but it remains to be seen, right? Because if you're looking at pure talent between the quarterbacks, you're talking about Spencer Rattler nonstop. This was a guy that was getting lots and lots of Heisman consideration on the strength of Lincoln Riley being his head coach and play caller, but also because I and others had been alerting you for 3 years that Rattler has the goods. Venom is out there, and he can spin it. Oklahoma's also averaging 390 yards a game through the air. Against Kansas State, Rattler threw for 387. Against Iowa State, he threw for 300. In the first half against Missouri State, he threw for 290, right? He has been great. I use this to illustrate the example of what a quarterback has control over and what he doesn't. I also acknowledge in the example, one is an NFL pro and the other is a redshirt freshman. That said, both Joe Burrow and Spencer Rattler went 25 of 36. Rattler had 2 passing touchdowns with the interception. Burrow had 1 passing touchdown with the interception. The difference, Joe Burrow's defense gave up 25 points. They won the game. Spencer Rattler's defense gave up 37 points. They lost the game. Okay? It's that simple sometimes. There is a contingent of OU fan that seems to think that Spencer Rattler is the problem when we're talking about Oklahoma football. And I'd like, you guys just don't actually watch the defense, do you? At all. To say nothing of, they can't run the football, which is really disconcerting because that has been what Lincoln Riley has actually hung his hat on with Oklahoma. It's been dominating that offensive line. They've been able to move people off the ball, and they've had outstanding running backs. Not so this year. No tailback for Oklahoma is averaging 5 yards per carry through 3 games. The offensive line has looked like a serious problem since Big 12 play started. Creed Humphrey does not look like the nasty individual that he was back when he came from Shawnee and just liked to put people in the dirt. You have rotating and revolving doors at left tackle. You don't know who your starting left guard is, and there are talented dudes I know are on that depth chart, like Stacey Wilkins, like Bray Walker, like Daryl Simpson. I don't know why Daryl's name just escaped me there for a second. But they just haven't been getting run. And I want to see them get run because how bad can it get? Also, we have to talk about Bill Bedenbaugh as one of the best offensive line coaches in the country, if not the best one. He needs to get it together with this because this offensive line is the strength of this football team. There were no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You are going to ride them. And to know that you can't get 5 yards per carry out of your tailbacks, even if they are just Seth McGowan and TJ Pledger primarily, is bad. To say nothing of what would happen if you had Ramondre Stevenson back. And I don't know why Marcus Major can't get more touches, but there's obviously a reason as to why. Silver lining here is when Rattler does get time to throw, he's been finding guys. Austin Stogner has emerged as one of the top pass catchers on this team. right alongside guys like Charleston Rambo and Marvin Mims. Marvin Mims is a true freshman. Austin Stogner is a sophomore. Of course, Charleston Rambo is in a draft-eligible year in which we expect that dude to actually carry that mantle of being a first-round draft pick at wide receiver. Maybe not happen this year because his size isn't there, and I think he would need to make a really he would have to go for about 1,800 yards. He'd have to have like a Hollywood Brown type of season, which I guess is like 1,400 yards receiving for it to happen. But it just doesn't feel that way right now. Jeremiah Hall has been great. I understand that Obi Obialo and Theo Howard are there. Theo Weiss is good. They're going to be fine and talented, and I think that they could take advantage of Texas's defense, especially if Rattler gets time to throw and you want to drop dudes back into coverage. He will pick you apart. But it doesn't matter if you can't run the football. You got to be able to run the football. Defensively, somehow people have come to believe that Ronnie Perkins is a panacea. Ronnie Perkins likely gets his suspension appealed to where he could play against Texas on Saturday. Riley has said repeatedly, we don't know. We have no idea. We do know he traveled to Ames and he was charging up the sideline in his sweatpants. Ronnie Perkins is the best defensive lineman that Oklahoma has on its roster. He can't fix the secondary. He can't fix the linebacker play, and he can't fix the defensive line. He can only fix defensive end. He's not a cure-all. He's not going to fix the defense magically. Getting him back does not change you drastically. I had the same discussion with LSU about Derek Stingley Jr. in the loss to Mississippi State. Him not playing does not affect that outcome. I hate to say it that way, but unless you are a quarterback, it doesn't matter, right? We have other guys that can make up for that because that position is not as valuable as quarterback. It's really just quarterback here and everybody else down here because that's the way that football works. Now, that said, you could use outstanding play from him on the defensive line, right? Help out guys like Isaiah Thomas, who is coming into his own, LaRon Stokes, Perrion Winfrey, Josh Ellison, and on it goes. You're seeing good play from Deshaun White, but you also have to throw Brian Meade out there. Somehow has 6 tackles this year, and that dude's still a walk-on. Like, hadn't been put on scholarship yet. Where's Robert Barnes? Where's Jamal Morris? Where are the guys that drop down from safety to play linebacker that you could run out there that are more athletic than some of those dudes? And more to the point, when you start talking about the back end, Patrick Fields was not brought to Oklahoma to be in the leader position that he is in. He has taken it and he has maximized his talent. But you out-recruited Pat Fields several times. You out-recruited him when you brought in Jamal Morris. You out-recruited him when you brought in Robert Barnes. You out-recruited him when you brought in Bryson Washington. Like, there are dudes with more talent than Patrick Fields at the safety position. Jeremiah Cradell comes to mind. I think what this comes down to is stylistically, what does Grinch want? He wants guys that don't make mistakes. He wants mistake-free football. He wants guys that don't have bust on film. The problem with that is talented players make mistakes. Ed Reed made mistakes all the time. Troy Polamalu made mistakes all the time. Now is the time to get your younger guys in that you know are super talented and coach them up. Do that job. Because this is not going to be a year for which you were expected to win a national championship in the first place. You want to be ready to go in 2021. And the only way you're ready to go in 2021 is if Bryson Washington, Jeremiah Cradell get those sorts of reps. If you know that you can get something out of Jamal Morris at will linebacker or even Mike, you need to be able to throw Josh Eaton in there. You need to be able to throw Kendall Dennis in there. Jaden Davis, I believe, is the future of the position. And ride Trey Brown as much as you can. But we don't see nearly enough of Trey Norwood either. Like, when we do, we see what is shorter defensive backs, right? And that's a problem. Because while I understand there are a lot of y'all that just want to have your height prejudice, let me tell you why I ride for Buki. It ain't because Buki's a 5-star. It ain't because Buki is, I believe, a natural corner that has been forced to play out of position for his entire career at Oklahoma in the most difficult position in the secondary, nickel safety. It's because Buki is going to pick up a personal foul before you punk him. Just like me. I'm going to hit you in the mouth before you punk me. It's just not going to be that way. That's called being physical. That's called asserting your will. Buki's still that dude that was blasting Kansas State tight ends as a true freshman. Buki's still that dude jumping in front of Pro Wells in 2019 to break up what could have been a game-winning pass to seal the victory for Oklahoma. Buki is still that dude getting into the chili of dudes that are much larger than him. I need him on the field because obviously nobody else out there wants to do the job of getting in somebody's chili because Iowa State ran trees at the secondary and them boys did not want to climb them. Pat Fields said it. When they just out-physical us, there's nothing you can do. You got to be more physical. You brought in guys that are longer and slender, but that's the thing. This defense only works if you are slender and fast. They have been soft and slower. They don't tackle, right? Like, that's an issue. You can't play this game like you got rheumatoid arthritis in your knees and your wrist. You can't do it. You're going to get beat. Giving up 30-plus to the last 3 FBS opponents that you faced, like an FCS defense. That's not going to cut it at the University of Oklahoma. I think, goodness me, outside of the clear size advantage that Texas has, the only other thing that I would be worried about is Mike Yurcich has the goods to out-scheme Alex Grinch, and he needs to be on his P's and Q's because Mike Yurcich can be out there absolutely making the play call that just breaks this game wide open. I understand Oklahoma is a 2.5-point favorite to start the week, and Texas is ranked. I'm inclined to think that that spread's going to grow a little bit. I'm going to pick Oklahoma, and I'm going to pick Oklahoma to cover, but I would not be surprised if Texas manages to hand Oklahoma 0-3 for the first time in Lord knows how long. Pray for the losers' fan base. Amen. Deuces.